Yo yo! How are you doing this lovely Tuesday evening? Well, for me anyway. ah, I'm doing okay. I am looking forward to what's gonna happen this trial, because I'm trying to avoid putting spoilers in my titles and stuff. Like, I wasn't just gonna be like, oh my god, we're up against Kazuma in court, because some other people who are, like, just getting into the game or whatever are gonna be like, wait, Kazuma comes back? Like, yes. I mean, I guess. I'm not gonna spoil it in the title, so let me just spoil it while talking about it. Well, you know. It'd be like that, I don't know. So, yeah. What happened recently? I got the new Johnny's List calendar, like, yesterday. It arrived yesterday. And I also finished my order for all of the tour goods, so that will be here in, like, a few days, which is kind of crazy. I mean, the shipping is also kind of crazy, but I was just like, no, I'm not waiting months for this. I'm not doing that. Though I did expect the shipping to take a little bit longer. But also it was a bit cheaper than I expected. Because it was like around 6,000 yen, I believe. And a general rule of thumb to just like convert it to Norwegian is just like remove a zero. But it was cheaper, and I was like, oh my god, yes! We love it here! I mean, we still don't, because it's really expensive for shipping. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm desperate. This month has just been me fucking spending a lot of money. Anyway, on Friday, I went into Oslo with my mother, and I was so convinced. Or actually, I wasn't convinced. That's the thing. Because I've been talking about it a few times, but I have an annoying eyelid, and it's something I was born with, and I don't know like how to say it. I guess like the muscle isn't as strong, like it just is a lot looser or something. I'm not sure entirely. But it's been bothering me since I was little, and we've tried to like do things to like strengthen the eyelid. I used to wear an eye patch when I was watching like TV when I was younger. We had like this kids TV at like 6 p.m. So from like 6 to 7 or 6 to 6:30, I don't remember exactly. I think it's just like 30 minutes or something. So for that amount of time, I just usually sat with like this eye patch on my left eye to just like strengthen my right one. Anyways, that's beside the point. Just giving you like some eye history here. So yeah, turns out though that didn't really do much for the eyelid, but it did help actually strengthen the eye, like a tiny bit. If I didn't do it, my eye might have been even worse by now. I mean, it's just speculation. We can't really say that for certain because we don't have anything to compare it to. Here is me without the eye patch when I was growing up. But also, I don't remember us doing the eye patch for very long. But what do I know? Yeah. Anyway, so we went into Oslo, and we went to this, like, hospital, which, by the way, is the most fucking confusing thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. Like, hello, okay, it's one thing if you have, like, a huge hospital, and it's just, like, separated into like parts or whatever, but at least make it make sense. Like you enter through what I assume to be like the entrance. Maybe it wasn't the entrance. Might as well not have been. It didn't really look like a main entrance, to be honest. But anyways, where we entered, we started at like 2. And then you like round a corner and suddenly you're 70. You follow straight ahead, there's number 3. You go a bit further, there's number 20. Like, there was no, there was, as far as I can tell, there was no pattern to it. It was just like a lot of buildings and we were just like, yeah, we gotta get to number 36. And we're like, where the fuck is this? Because if only it was just like, hey, yeah, follow this until you get to number 36. It wasn't. It wasn't. We got to like fucking 20 before that. Did we pass something that was like 60? I have no fucking clue. Anyways, in the letter I got, it said that it was like 10 minutes walking from like the main entrance. Don't know if we found the main entrance, but we did find an entrance and we did find it eventually. Anyways, we got there and the entire time I was just like so confused about what was gonna happen. Like I wasn't sure about anything. Like what am I here for? Is this gonna be like the surgery or operation or whatever you want to call it? Or is this just something else? And I told my mom about this and she was like, no, it has to be. And I'm just like, but wouldn't they say if it was? You know, just for even for just the mental preparations instead of just like showing up and be like, yes, your surgery is today. And you're like, today? I thought we were just gonna have like a little checkup or whatever. Like, but turns out it wasn't then. And I said I was gonna have a surgery. But I wasn't. Fortunately or unfortunately? I mean, I'm a bit glad. But also now I have to wait like 6 to 9 months. Which is fine. People are like, oh my god, that's so long. And I'm just like, I mean, I guess. But some people may have to wait even longer. We're lucky because we live so close, so we can come in on short notice or whatever. And literally, before I sat down in the chair, the doctor was just like, oh, you're using like your forehead muscles a lot to keep your other eye open. And I was like, oh my god, I never noticed that. Or I may have noticed that, but I haven't really thought about it, you know? And no one else through my almost 25 years have said something like that. And I've gotten my eyes checked a few times. I've been there like 2 times just like the past year. No one said anything about that. And it was like almost before I sat down. He was just like, oh, I can see you're using your forehead muscles a lot. And I'm just like, oh my god. And yeah, I've been like trying to think about how does this actually bother me on like a level that isn't mostly cosmetic. And I finally have it. I mean, to be fair, I don't really notice it most of the time, but it's like it's more sore, kind of. Like I've been noticing it a few times. Objection. Hello. Yeah, I changed my going live notification. I think I did anyway. Did it work? I was just talking about my eye. About my eyelid. And how the doctor, almost before I sat down in the chair, was like, hey, you're using your forehead muscles to keep your right eye open. And I was like, oh my god. I really do. I didn't even notice that. I never thought about it. But yeah, recently I've been like, I don't know, trying to rub just my eyebrow, kind of. Yeah, that's the new one, that's the new one, that's the new one. Cool, 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 cool. Hold on. I can fix it later. What was I talking about? Yes, I've been like trying to just like do some tests because like he said, I'm using my forehead muscles and therefore also my eyebrow to like keep the right eyelid open. And this is like something I've been doing for a long time because I can Dr. Big but they can just see sometimes. But he is the only one. Like I've been to like fucking eye doctors twice this past year. None of them saw anything. I've been to the optician. None of them saw anything. I mean, to be fair, opticians might not be able to see that. But actual eye doctors? You would think they would notice that. Like, huh, it's strange. Like, he said it before I sat down almost. Like, it was the most surreal thing. And I was just like, you're right. Like, it's kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, so I've been like rubbing like my eyelids or whatever, just kind of like pushing it down a bit more because that's kind of what he did. And I've noticed that the right eyebrow, it's more like sore. I guess it's because I'm using more muscles there. I don't know. Maybe there's something else. It almost feels like there's like some kind of pressure difference. But he checked like my eye pressure and it was fine or whatever. That doctor has a high perception score. Yeah, maybe that's why he's an eye doctor. Did he not give tips for like how to not use your forehead muscles? Well, apparently even if I try to relax it, I still use it a bit. So, good question. Anyways, it was decided that it's gonna be a bit of a bigger procedure than I originally expected because they want to sedate me. Or I want to be sedated. Mostly because I get very anxious and stuff. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna get anxious by being fucking getting needles in my hands or whatever. I definitely will, but at least I can actually kind of, you know, see that. It's a bit different when you can't see. That's the worst thing. Because like in 2014, I had a surgery where I was getting rid of this ovarian cyst I had of like 11 liters. I don't know how you can like measure that if you don't speak liter. No, but if you speak imperial, I don't know. Fucking Google it, I guess. But anyways, it was big, it was heavy, it was like a fucking water balloon. If you have just like a fucking a bucket, like a what's it called, like a cleaning bucket? I don't know what it's called, sorry. But usually those are like 10 liters. So it's like that, but like add 1 more liter. A lot of fun, a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Did not bother me at all in my teenage years. Anxiety before and while they sedate you, or anxiety before during the whole procedure. I know which one I would go for. Yeah, no, I'd rather be just as far out of it as physically possible. Because, like, they are gonna, like, cut into my eyelid or whatever. And if I can just, like, not be as aware of it, I think I prefer that. And it was really, they were really nice. Really nice people. So I just had to, like, fill out this form before I went home. Just put me in a coma, dog! Yeah, it's not gonna be, like, a full thing. Like, I'll still be like in control of my breathing myself, so I'm not gonna be like fucking intubated or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna be sedated for that, which is kind of scary, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, back to like my surgery of 2014. So like I said, I had this big ovarian cyst, and I was, of course, really nervous before I changed into like the hospital gown or whatever. Got rolled around in my bed into a room where I, first of all, got like a local anesthetic in my back because I was gonna get an epidural. If you don't know what an epidural is, they usually use it during like pregnancies to like lessen the pain. And it's basically this like thick plastic tube that they shove up into your back so that they can just like constantly give you anesthetic, pretty much. These make a razor car sounds while running around. I was a bit too old for that. I don't remember how old I was in 2014, but I don't recall that. Anyways, it wasn't actually as bad as it sounds, despite me almost passing out when they fucking shoved the epidural up my back. Never too old for razor car sounds. I mean, I guess. But yeah, they shoved it up there, and I remember I was just like kind of sitting on the bed, looking out into the forest or whatever, or into the trees that were like right outside the window, and I was just trying to focus on them, and my eyes just would not focus. Not in like a things went blurry kind of way, as in like, how like my focus shifted. Like it was like, it like floated up and then like back down, and then it just floated up and just snapped back down. Floating up, snap back down. Kind of like that. I feel faint just at the thought of someone shoving a piece of plastic near my back. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but it wasn't like very bad. Like it wasn't painful at all because local anesthesia, but you can feel that they're pushing something up there, and it's really, really weird. And I was like really tired after that, and then they rolled me into the operation room, and some guy or someone was like talking to me about how this was gonna work, about how I was gonna get like this mask on my mouth or whatever, and then just told me to like count down or whatever. And I swear, before my head fucking hit the pillow on the operation table, I was gone. I don't remember anything. By the way, is my stream okay? I can see that on my own end it kind of like stops and buffers a lot. I don't know if that's the case for you. It's okay? Okay. Might just be because I got a lot of things running in the background. I mean, do I though? Questionable. Questionable. Huh. Anyways, yeah. It was kind of funny. Because I remember him telling me that just gonna count down from like 99 or whatever. And I was just like, oh, okay, sure. And I was probably so fucking exhausted after the fucking epidural that they just like shifted me over to the operating table, and before my head hit the pillow, out like a light. I mean, good for me. I'm not complaining. And also, I was really tired when I woke up. And I spent like the entire rest of the day just sleeping, pretty much. And then night came and I couldn't sleep. That's great. Love that. Anyways, I've been rambling. You can start cutting in. She's asleep. Well, I say that's what happened. But for all I know, I may have been awake a bit longer, except I don't remember it. Like, that's perfectly possible. But from my point of view, I was gone. Like, I don't remember anything. But yes, like I said, I've been rambling for way too long, so let's just get into the game, I guess. Alright. So, better than counting to 10 and still being awake, yeah. But it was counting down, I'm pretty sure. What I wanted to do was take the game chat and move it up just a little bit. Like there, maybe? Probably fine. There we go. Yeah! Fonzieks is in prison. That's right. There's that old familiar feeling again. The crushing pressure of this historic courthouse. Actually, no, it's a little different today. There's an even more menacing tension in the air. There is a menacing tension in the air here today, isn't there? I suppose. Yes, I think so. It can only be the result of this menacing appearance of the defendant. A little more courtesy, if you please. Oh my! I do apologize! You mean the menacing tension of Fonzieks glaring at you the entire time? Yeah. I can go a bit further up, actually. Now that I'm seeing it. Also, I noticed a while back that, like, the chat was, like, cut off for at least the last stream or something, and it bothered me, and I was just like, fuck! And anyways, it's fixed now. However, you're certainly not mistaken that this trial is far from ordinary. What do you mean? I'm not privy to the details, however, I understand that no jury has been selected. Interesting, interesting, no jury. A trial without a jury? Well, that's just like the trial of the professor 10 years ago. Kazuma, what the fuck are you doing? A closed court. Good morning, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes. Have you made note of my hair, Mr. Naruhodo? An outright victory for science, you must agree. It looks like it's back to normal. To be perfectly honest, so much happened yesterday that, well, I completely forgot about your little hair problem. Ha! What to one man is a little hair problem, is to another day, a day of drinking dubious potion after dubious potion. You have no idea how my stomach ails me this morning. Dear, how awful for you. He put this on himself. Just ignore him. I'm afraid you only have yourself. Fuck. I'm afraid you only have yourself to blame, Mr. Sholmes. And good morning to you, Mr. Reaper. I'm delighted to see you are looking so full of vim. And you. I see London's celebrated great detective is as active as ever. No, you exaggerate, my dear fellow. Compared to my paltry engagements with a few trivial cases, the Reaper's overbearing presence is a far greater deterrent to the black roots of crime in our capital. And, whilst I may not agree with your methods, there is at least one point on which I would readily commend you. What an honor. And that would be... your eye for a good lawyer, sir. Mr. Sholmes! After all, behind this lawyer there is a very great mind. My own. Fucking... Shut up! What are you trying to say?
I wish only to say that you should be prepared for quite a trial, Mr. Reaper.
Oh no. Gina! What's that on her arm? It's a mourning band, I suppose.
Mother! Shouldn't you be at the symposium?
It's been postponed, so I have some free time. I decided to come along with the police inspector to see our country's up-and-coming student in action. I shall be very interested to see the fruits of your studies over the past year. Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's hope there are some fruits to see. Funzix is starting to regret everything. He's just like, fuck this. I'll just go to the gallows myself.
Otto.
Oh. Yes, Gina?
Why'd you agree to this, eh? Why'd you take him on? This Reaper bloke. Everyone says it was him, what? What killed the boss?
I'm sorry, Gina, but I just don't believe that.
Well, if it weren't him, who was it?
I don't know that yet.
I don't care who calls him what. The Reaper's just a name. It's just a person at the end of the day. And if it turns out it was him what killed the boss, then God help him.
Fiery eyes indeed. Yes, the culprit deserves every ounce of your loathing. At least, that may be some solace to the deceased.
Please, Otto. Get whoever did this. For the boss. Oh, Gina. I ain't feeling this useless, but there's nothing I can do. So you gotta find the one who did this and make the wretch pay.
Yep, court will be in session. Let's go. Alright then, here we go.
It's time, Mr. Naruto. What fun seeks?
Gina needs all the hugs, for real. I think everyone here in this game needs hugs. One who lost his treasured brother to a mass murderer. One who lost his treasured father in a foreign court of law. And one who lost the man who helped her escape destitution. All that misfortune, all that pain, on course to collide headlong in this trial. It's time to shine a light on all these dark events. And whatever truth is revealed, we're going to have to look it straight in the eye. Something about Sholmes? Thank God we don't have a jury. That's what I'm gonna say. I like the jury, but they're annoying to voice. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to conduct the fair and just trial of the defendant Baroque Funzix. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready to begin? The defense is ready, my lord. Oh, fucking let's go. Isn't this about how he won't talk about the professor case? Who, Funzix? The prosecution is more than ready.
Oh, Kazuma-sama.
Been wishing to see you in court again for so long. Feels... But I never pictured it happening like this. I never thought I'd be facing you behind the prosecution's bench. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey.
has been a scourge like no other, undermining Her Majesty's justice system. Today, we must uncover the truth behind this scourge.
Oh, yeah, no, Sholmes. Duh. That's what you meant, obviously. In other words, I was really confused by that. This trial is going to be a lot more far-reaching than Inspector Gregson's murder.
The truth revealed by these proceedings may have unpredictable repercussions through the judiciary. Accordingly, they are to be conducted as a closed trial with no members of the public present.
So, why is the gallery fucking full?
By Her Majesty's direct orders.
Look! Look, there are so many people there! It's okay. They're just cardboard cutouts. It's fine. How will that work, my lord?
Burden of all arbitration and adjudication falls on my shoulders. Therefore, as you will see, the juror's bench shall remain vacant today.
If no members of the public are present, might I ask who is currently occupying the gallery, my lord?
Ah, okay. Thank you, you actually made it make sense.
They are members of the judiciary, here to witness proceedings and ensure an equitable trial.
Members of the judiciary?
Why? This is a very unusual trial already.
There is of course another unprecedented aspect to these proceedings on which I must elaborate. The counsels for the prosecution and the defense are both aliens of Great Britain.
I believe it takes an outsider to see the truth sometimes. And as I stand here in this courtroom now, I am quite certain. This is the reason why I had to come to Britain. Azuma?
Very well. Let us commence proceedings. Prosecutor Asogi, your opening statement, if you please.
Certainly, my lord. Alright. The incident took place on 1st of November at just after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The location was a building of flats on Fresno Street on the outskirts of the city. The victim's body was discovered there in an old single-room rental property.
Yes, Inspector Tobias Gregson. A name known very well indeed to this court.
All the jury has done, to be honest, is jumping to conclusions. True.
Not least for his miraculous resolution of one of this country's grimmest cases 10 years ago.
Professor case.
How sure are you about the time of the incident? Several witnesses on the street outside heard the gunshot and all have reported the same time. Yes, that's what Gina told us too. There were a number of witnesses. I have here a plan of the room. The victim was found curled up in one corner. It's believed that he was shot from the front at point-blank range and died instantly. Picture.
How has the range been determined?
There were scorch marks around the entry wound. Okay. Such marks are caused by the gunpowder used to fire the bullets. But powder hot enough to leave scorch marks is only ejected a few inches beyond the end of the barrel. So much sadder to think he was curled up when he died. Don't think. In other words, it only happens when the target is at point-blank range.
I see, yes. Thank you for the detailed explanation, Counsel.
The murder weapon was found lying beside the victim.
And have you managed to ascertain the owner of this firearm?
No, my lord. Not conclusively.
Bravo, Kazuma-sama. For not trying to use the gun as evidence when its provenance can't be proven.
Furthermore, my lord, as I've explained, the revolver was fired at extremely close range. The bullet passed through the victim and struck the wall behind him. There is a candelabrum mounted on that wall. And the tip of one of the candles in it was found to have been blown off by the projectile.
We noticed that too, didn't we?
That's right.
Thank you for the thorough report, Counsel. The setting of the crime is clear to me. You will submit the plan of the crime scene as evidence, please.
As you wish, my lord.
Is this Fresnel Street room Inspector Gregson's private abode?
No, my lord. The room is rented to a Mr. Hugh Boone. But there is precious little furniture inside, and it is generally in a poor state of repair. So what on earth was Gregson even doing there?
Presumably, he was investigating some case or other.
When a policeman was informed of the gunshot from the witnesses and rushed to the scene, he found only the deceased inspector and the accused standing alongside, holding the revolver. The attending officer arrested the accused on the spot.
So, the details of the case are clear.
In that case, the prosecution would like to call its first witness.
A name, please, Counsel.
Naturally, the accused himself. Lord Van Zieks? As a prosecutor, he believes in the oath of office he's taken and will be compelled to tell the truth. If that is the case, then the candle was struck stopped burning down. I assume that the other candles kept on burning, meaning that the time of death is probably not when everyone thinks it is. Oh, I was like thinking, like, why the fuck is this one so much longer? You just said something. You're right. I've been like thinking about this.
Let the defendant take the witness stand.
So, witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Rock van Zieks, Old Bailey prosecutor.
I presume, Lord Van Zieks, that you heard Prosecutor Asogi's opening
Precis, I don't know. We have that sometime before, but I don't remember it. I see that the Fifth Amendment was not a thing back in the day. What is the Fifth Amendment again? Is that just like pleading the Fifth? Isn't the Fifth Amendment American? Maybe not? I don't know.
It is alleged that you were found at the scene of the crime, and that you were arrested by the arriving police officer. Can you confirm this?
Yes, my lord. And I'm sure the court would like to hear you explain some things away. Namely, why you were there in the room on Fresno Street at the time in question. And what exactly took place. I intend to explain away nothing. I will simply tell the truth.
I must say, Lord Van Zieks, I never imagined this day would come. Or rather, I didn't want to imagine it would come. But since you became known as the Reaper, a part of me has been dreading it. Your formal testimony then, witness.
I was investigating Gregson, and my inquiries had led me to that address. When I first entered the room that day, it was dark inside and I saw no one. A moment later, I heard the gunshot. I spun around and saw the revolver on the floor. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. That testimony was the whole truth.
was. So, you heard a shot being fired in the room with no living occupants. And moments later, a corpse somehow appeared before your eyes. Is that it? You're right. You haven't explained away anything. In fact, that would barely qualify as an excuse. I thought you were my mute apprentice. Yet it turns out you have a way with words. Prosecutor Asogi. It would appear to be a singular tale indeed. Singular isn't the word, it's laughable. What's got into Cosmo? He's not behaving like himself at all. It is American, but it also exists in other countries under other names. It's the right to not say anything that could incriminate you, yeah. Okay. So even though he's not guilty, testifying could incriminate him. True.
No, we've had that. I'm pretty sure we've had that, right? When did we have that? We had that at some point. I feel like it was at the end of the first game, maybe. But I'm pretty sure we had that. Was it Ex Benedict? I don't know. It's called the right of silence in England, and it's also called the privilege against self-incrimination. Interesting. Anyways, I believe we had at least something like that in the Great Ace Attorney. So it did exist. But I don't remember who did it. But I'm sure if someone remembers, it's you.
Very well then. Counsel, you may begin your cross-examination.
I'm trying to remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure we had it. Yes, my lord. Why were you investigating him then? You were investigating the inspector. What on earth for?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Sorry?
I'd identified a distinct possibility that Gregson was involved in a case I was investigating. Regrettably, though, he was killed before I could secure the proof I needed. Is the court to understand, then, that on the day in question you followed the victim to the scene? No, I was privy to his movements in advance.
How?
I stole into his office in the yard and consulted his diary. The address on Fresno Street was noted in the 5 p.m. entry. You illegally enter the man's office. In Japan, that alone would constitute a very serious offense. Or maybe it was when they were in Japan.
I don't know. Someone did. Someone did that. I can't say anything, because I will just incriminate myself further. I don't remember who it was, but I'm sure someone fucking did.
As it does in Great Britain, I assure you. Is that not the case, Lord Van Zieks? I was aware of the possible consequences. So, in summary, you were investigating the victim, and yet, you refused to tell the court why. Didn't realize British prosecutors enjoyed such freedom to choose what to divulge under oath. Why did I ever think I could defend this man? Just be like, I'm giving up. Sorry, Van Zieks. You're on your own. It was dark inside, so no one...
Hold it!
So, who fired the gun? I have no idea. I didn't see anybody else in the room. You say it was very dark in there? Yes, that's right. All I can tell you is I didn't sense another's presence. Aha! Then could it be that the gunshot actually originated from somewhere outside the room? No, that's out of the question. Oh. Without doubt, the sound emanated from inside the room. I could smell the gunpowder. I'm trying to figure out who said it as well. I know that Damon Gant used it. Yes. That's right. But I'm pretty sure someone did it in The Great Ace Attorney too. Or maybe I'm just mixing them up. Could be. This is going from bad to worse. And you say that's the point at which you notice a revolver on the floor. Correct. And I foolishly picked it up. That was carelessness on my part.
Presumably then, the gunshot you heard came from the firearm that you somewhat hastily took in your hands. Okay, Edgeworth, go off.
In point of fact, my lord, I believe it did not. What? The barrel of the revolver I picked up was cold, and there was no smell of spent powder. But then, where on earth is the gun that was fired? Or else I would like to oblige you with an answer. I'm afraid I can't. I too would dearly like to know that.
Hold it!
A man, you say? One of the witnesses, I presume? That's right. One of the street merchants working on Fresno Street.
Who are these merchants?
A number of them had set up their stalls directly beneath the boarded window of the crime scene. A match seller, a newsmonger, and a peddler. They've all given statements saying they heard this gunshot. And without thought of danger, they ran inside to see what had happened.
Yes, Gina told us about that yesterday, didn't she?
They burst through the door with some force, it would seem. They did, and almost gave me a heart attack in the process. But you were supposed to be the Reaper. He can also get scared! If someone fucking comes bursting through your door, you'll be scared too. It doesn't fucking matter who you are. And even if you may not have like a physical reaction to it. It must have been Eggert? Yeah, I get a feeling it's somewhere there. Like no one else fits the bill. Yeah. Or McGilded. No, I don't think that was him. The first man to come in immediately noticed the revolver in my hand and fled. A policeman patrolling on Fresno Street heard the commotion and was able to arrest the accused shortly after the incident occurred. Anyway, the man's scream drew my attention in that direction. Most likely Eggert. I wish I could look through it right now.
Hold it!
What do you mean by that? And in what way did the body appear? I honestly can't explain it, but it's the truth. As far as I was concerned, the body hadn't been there until that point, and then suddenly, there it was. Did you perhaps hear the sound of the victim falling to the ground just beforehand? That moment, what I heard was the sound of the door flying open and the scream of the man who came inside first. Nothing more. Interesting, interesting. I see. I'm I also get the feeling it's ex-Benedict. Because,
It feels familiar, but I can't place it.
After the man fled, I examined the body. He did say that the room was dark, right? So the candle theory must be right, I feel. Interesting. I was stunned to find that it was Gregson.
Most curious circumstances indeed.
How the inspector was killed or how his body seemed to appear out of nowhere. I have no idea. That's Lord Van Ziek's account.
Do you have any thoughts?
Mainly that it doesn't really ring true in all sorts of ways. Who fired the gun if there was nobody else there? And how did the corpse just appear in front of him?
You think Lord Van Zieks is lying?
No, I don't think that. I mean, if he was going to lie, I would expect him to have come up with a more credible story, wouldn't you?
Yes, I completely agree. I think he genuinely doesn't know what really happened himself. So we must do what we can to fill in the gaps.
Yes, first and foremost, we need more information.
Hold it!
This is the one thing I haven't pressed, I think. Had you ever been to the address before? No, never. I only learned of the place as a result of my investigations into Gregson's activity. There was no light inside when I entered, so it was all but impossible to make out anything. But at 5 p.m. the sun would only just have gone down. It would still have been reasonably light outside. The room has a window, but it was boarded shut. Very little light found its way into the room from outside, so it was extremely murky inside. Wait, we forgot to read the autopsy report. I always forget this. Time of death is blank. Really? Maria Gori? Really? Victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Scorch marks at point of entry. The bullet exited the bullet from behind. The color for the gun used matches that have standard issue firearms for members of the judiciary. Interesting. They wouldn't have noticed if the victim was already lying on the floor. I need to sneeze, but also not. I think I'm fine, at least for now. There was no artificial light in the room, you say? You're quite sure? I'm quite sure that the part of the room where the body was found was very dark. I have a feeling there was a small oil lamp burning on the desk, though. I couldn't say for certain.
Look, Mr. Naruhodo. There is a small desk in the room just here.
I remember, and there was an oil lamp on it, as well as the framed photograph. When I entered the room, I closed the door behind me and started toward the desk to investigate. And what did you find? Nothing. I never actually reached the desk.
Objection!
Objection. Okay. Fuck. Am I gonna make him talk like that now? Surely the court has heard enough. Fuck. That will be really funny, I'm not gonna lie. My lord, the cross-examination has clearly revealed that the accused, Barak Van Zieks, is lying on multiple fronts. God, I can't take it seriously. What? What is that supposed to mean?
Good gracious, counsel.
The defendant is lying, you say? In his testimony just now, he claims that he failed to notice the victim's body because the room was dark. That's correct. No, that's impossible. It makes it sound like those know-it-all nerds from Hollywood movies. It does. As proven by this candelabrum. How does that prove anything? If you examine... Good job. If you examine the tip of the long candle, you can see it has been blown off by a powerful impact.
One would assume that the projectile from the firearm passed through the victim and struck the candle.
The problem comes when you consider the other two candles, which are clearly a different length.
Yes, I can see that only the candle that appears to have been struck by the bullet is long.
We could reasonably expect someone to have lit all three candles together. Which begs the question of why only one has ended up longer than the others. That must be because the particular candle was extinguished when the others were still burning. Ah! That's right. Fuck. It doesn't suit him. He sounds like, in my head, I imagine him as like more serious and more stern, and not just like, oh, that's right, when the candle was hit by the bullet. Like, fuck. It obviously went out. I don't know what I want to do for his voice now. The other two candles would still have been burning. So the fact is... no, I can't do it. The victim's body would have been illuminated by the light still thrown by the candelabrum. He just changed his voice, it's fine. And the accused's claim that he couldn't see the body clearly contradicts those facts. And now, to the next lie. There's more? The accused also claims never to have visited the scene of the crime before. That's the truth. This voice fits him better than a nerd voice. What do you mean? What do you mean this does not fit Kazuma? He has the power of God and anime on his side. Anyway. In that almost empty room, the police discovered something very unusual. A board covered from top to bottom in police documents and newspaper cuttings.
Yes, that's right. We saw it too.
That's it, he sounds like a fucking weeb. My name is Kazuma Asogi. I have the power of God, law, and anime on my side. It goes without saying that the contents of the police documents cannot be divulged. However, they included a number of reports from various historical cases, the oldest of which was from 10 years ago. 10 years ago? This is starting to sound familiar. And there is a common thread linking all of the documents on that board.
Indeed? What is this common thread, counsel?
They all relate to cases prosecuted in court by Baruch von Zieks. I can just see him going, actually, and pushing up his glasses. He even has a katana to sell the picture. That was what I was thinking about. Actually. Oh boy. All of them? And furthermore, all those cases are ones in which the defendant was acquitted.
Good lord!
Interestingly, none of those defendants are alive today, because all of them have been sent to their graves by the Reaper.
Oh no!
In short, that dingy little room is the Reaper's secret hideout and his base of operations. The Reaper's hideout? And yet the Reaper would claim never to have been to his own secret hideout. No one would believe that. No. The truth is, we've been looking at this backwards.
This is going, actually, we've been looking at this backwards the entire time? Whoa, that's so crazy, dude.
Backwards? Explain, Counsel.
Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. What? What? Oh no.
Order! Very well. I hereby state the current opinion of the court. Barak van Ziekt is an outstanding prosecutor who has rendered great service to his country. However, it is with deep regret that I must concur with Prosecutor Asogi's contention that a defendant's testimony exhibits a number of stark inconsistencies with the known facts. All I have done is state the truth as I know it. Cousin has done a brilliant job as ever. He's drawing on his experience as a defense attorney to build his prosecution case, and it's formidable. Counsel, you will submit the board that you just show the court as evidence. I believe it to be fundamental in establishing the facts surrounding the Reaper's existence.
That reminds me of a story a friend told me about one of their former workmates. During the lunch break, the co-worker would go to the parking lot with a broom handle and practice sword fighting. One day the supervisor saw this when they were going back to work and just fucking went, well, looks like we have one of those ninja guys here! Amazing. Thank you, my lord. Alright. Let's check it out. Yeah, sure, you'll like to call a new witness. Whatever.
There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years on here, aren't there?
This paper from 10 years ago is browning with age, look.
Out of interest, the most recent thing appears to be this newspaper cutting here.
Oh. It's the same Red-Headed League advertisement that Mr. Sholmes had picked out.
And do you remember? There was a red hairpiece at the scene too.
Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the Red-Headed League? On the back. Oh.
What's this? Mr. Naruhodo! Look!
Oh yes, it's a smudge of some kind. In fact, it looks just like a handprint. How would you get a handprint there in that direction? Or that orientation, sorry.
And the color! That's blood, isn't it? Oh dear! How disturbing!
Nothing on the other side, nothing on the top. Yeah, I think we're good to go. And this is just a floor plan, yeah. And now, the prosecution would like to call new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses who saw events unfold on the day in question.
They were mentioned in the previous testimony too, if you remember.
Yes, the street sellers who heard the gunshot and went running into the room.
Very well. Lead the witnesses in. The defendant may step down from the witness stand.
Certainly, my lord. Saw what happened. Yeah. So, witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Beppo! Yeah, I was gonna say actually, but I was like, is that him? I'm not sure. Sir, are you quite alright? Is Beppo homeless now? No. Oh my god, look, it's Nakamajunta from Johnny's West. Sorry. Oh boy. Names? We don't use names far too fancy for the likes of us.
We're just free and easy. Tell what we like, live where we want to live. I give them all a vacant stare as they walk down from Fresno and spin a few words into a verse for them.
Nah. Would I be right in assuming that all three of you make your living by selling wares on the street?
Okay, fuck it. I'm not gonna give them voices. I'm just not. I'm too lazy right now. Everyone calls me gossip. I sell jaunty little titbits. It's tidbits. It's not titbits. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's tid with a D. Tidbits, not titbits. Right? Right? It's not. Maybe he sold pictures of tits. You know what? Maybe he did. Good for him, I guess. Well, actually, depends. Where did he get those pictures from? Or who? Who were the pictures of? To passers-by, you know. Jaunty little titbits. It's tid. Got an absolute smasher for you, sir. Right up your ginnel it is. Its expense is the price, and not a penny less. Tidbit is American/Canadian. Titbit is everywhere else, apparently. Really? No, there's no way. There's no way, because I remember it was in Metopia too, and I watched RT play it. And Mance is fucking Irish, and he reacted to the titbit. It was like, titbit? So that's strange. Maybe it's just been so normalized now, I don't know. The titbit just looks... It looks wrong. Titbit is older, so probably why they went with it here. Probably. Makes sense, I guess. Wait, you're actually trying to sell it to me now? Come on, sir, don't tell me you're not interested. Try the man. Give him the money and see what it is.
Pay the man, counsel.
Alright, sixpence it is. You won't regret it, sir. Now, got your listening ears on? Just between us, a young couple on Slight Street have just had twins. Thanks. Really worth sixpence. Is that it? No, that's not it. It's gossip, innit? Ain't it? Okay. I guess that works, yeah. It's gossip, isn't it? It wants to spread, but that bit's up to you and your mouth, of course. I've got more, you know. Want another juicy one? 6 apiece it is, if you're curious. Sir, you're in a court of law? I am curious, yes, about what's going on just under that fat bottom lip of yours. Oh, okay. Namely that unusual bruise or whatever it is that's poking up from under your collar. Let the man have his kinks, my god! What about the next witness then? What name do you go by and what do you sell? I'm Venus, that's what everyone calls me. Funny, isn't it? I sell these lovely little fireworks to all the local school kids. Ah. 6 a pop. What do you say? They're not exploding. Never mind. You weren't exaggerating with little. Do they actually sell? Oh yeah, the second years can't get enough of my Venus firecrackers. Especially when I tell them that if they get 100, they could blow up the school. I'm sorry. I'm sorry? Hello?
Not the most savory of ideas, young lady.
What do you say then, huh? You wanna part with 6 for a pop? Wait, what? We just paid almost £2 in current year money to hear that someone had twins? Yes, apparently so. You want me to buy one? Tell you what, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get 100 of them, you could blow up the whole courtroom. Try the woman.
Give her the money and see if she's right.
Has everyone forgotten we're in court?
Pay the woman, counsel.
Alright, I'll buy one. Lovely stuff. Right then, this is something a bit extra just for you. The Venus Special. Only 600 pence. 600? It's 100 of my regular fireworks. Nothing little about that, is there? And there'll be nothing little about the punishment if I blew up the Old Bailey either. What the fuck? What sort of a bound could it make? Ooh, okay. And the last witness. What name do you go by and what do you sell? I'm a thinker, me. I think all sorts of thoughts, I think. No, it's all sorts of thoughts. I think, therefore I am. I am, therefore I think. Because I stand there on the street, watching the world go on about me. They call me the observator. Everyone calls you Sandwich? Why do they call him Sandwich? So, you don't actually sell anything. A problem shared is a problem halved, is what they say. I give advice, I do. And think what it means. I don't actually sell anything, no. Come to think of it. What's this say? Actual help? Pity. No more purchases today, please.
Well, we have quite a cost here, it seems.
They conduct their business on Fresno Street from morning until night, my lord. And always in the same place, directly adjacent to the crime scene.
I see, and thus they heard the gunshot, I suppose.
So for £350, we can blow up the courthouse. Seems like a deal to me. Not only that, but they very bravely ran inside to see what was going on and witness the crime. I won't be beggared, I thought, just between us. Venus de Milo, what am I to do? What a terrible thing I saw. What I think is, if all what we see is light and shadow playing with our eyes, is any of it real? Please, Beppo.
Very well.
Sorry, sandwich.
The court will hear the formal testimony of these 3 witnesses now. You will describe in detail what you witnessed and heard at the time of the incident.
Alright. Hold on, let me just screenshot this. I'm gonna send it to Beza later and be like, look, it's Junta! So the whole thing from start to finish we did. Everything from the moment they went in the building. It was less than a minute after the Reaper had gone inside that we all heard a big bang. Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk. Gossip couldn't wait to go and see what had happened. I ran into the room and there he was, the Reaper, gun in hand, standing over the dead body. I was scared half to death, me. So I ran off to find a copper, okay. If these witnesses were there the whole day and saw everything, who did they see going inside the building? Only the victim, Inspector Gregson, and the accused, Baruch von Zeeks. Seen pictures of that Reaper in the paper. I know what he looks like. And just between us, Falk love histories, like Falk love stories, not history. The gunshot they heard was a board falling down. Not the firecracker?
Have you had an idea, Mr. Naruhodo? You're staring at the end of the string of fireworks.
Sorry, it's just that it's the Venus special. I was wondering what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like. Or the firecracker. But she said it could blow up the courtroom. Alright. It was a fairly sizable bang.
My ears are still ringing, Mr. Naruhodo. It sounded almost exactly like... Oh.
Never saw that coming. Made myself a tidy sum already. You are a genius. For once. Usually you're the one that's a fucking brain here. But wait. The room was just one of several flats in the building. Someone from another flat could have done it. All those flats on Fresno Street are unoccupied. Of course they are. They're small, damp, dirty, and expensive to boot. The room in which the inspector was found is the only property in the building that's currently leased.
We know the leaseholder's name, don't we? It's Hugh Boone.
Doesn't sound like an alias at all.
The testimony the court has just heard would appear to leave little room for doubt. It's becoming increasingly difficult to see how anyone other than the defendant could have committed the crime.
No! Thank you for your candor, my lord. No? Shut up.
Counsel for the defense, you may proceed to cross-examine.
Yes, okay. Let's go. In a closed court like this without a jury, the judge is the only person whose opinion matters. I have to break down this testimony. Somehow. By which, presumably, you mean the gunshot. Sell these little things, don't I? How would I know what a gunshot sounds like? But I've always thought it probably sounds a bit
like this, doesn't it? And you say that you heard the noise almost as soon as you saw the defendant here enter the building. That's right, it was almost straight away. Bang it went, just like that. Well, he's the Reaper, isn't he? It's what the French call it. Fait accompli. When the Reaper's around, people are going in the ground. I mean, that's what he does, isn't it? I think we get the message. The Reaper couldn't allow the inspector to live after he discovered his secret hideout. There can be no clearer motive for the crime.
Yes. It's certainly an eminently credible motive.
Great. And at that point, he ran inside. Is that correct? Seems to me that quick to talk is quick to walk, yeah. Guess I couldn't wait to go and see what had happened.
Hold it!
So then, you were the first person to arrive on the scene, is that right? And I was, kicked the door open like a professional I did, and yelled out, "What's going off here?" Lord Van Zieks claims all he heard was a man scream, though. And was it dark inside the room? No, not dark at all. There were candles burning on the wall. Interesting. Really? And there was a fella collapsed on the floor. Just between us. It's the first thing I noticed when I got inside. I see. Even though Lord Van Zieks claims not to have seen any such lights on the wall. Next thing I noticed was someone standing right beside the body. The accused, Baruch Van Zieks. That's right, the pale-faced Reaper himself. I was a little shocked, I won't deny it, but I'm no lily-livered coward. I stood my ground and gave that Reaper a cold hard stare myself. And was there anyone else in the room at the time? No, of course not at first. But then this old stiff came waddling along behind me. Of course, only him, mind. Can't handle stairs so well as you can imagine, especially on the way up. And you couldn't have just failed to see someone? It was a bit dingy in there, I grant you. There were the candles on the wall and the lamp on the table. There was nowhere anyone could have been hiding. Mark my eyes. Ugh. Why were you scared? Didn't you just say you don't know what a gunshot sounds like? Why were you scared? Wouldn't you just think it was one of your firecrackers?
Hold it!
So you didn't run into the room with your friends. I'm not that sort of girl. Sorry? I'm a timid little thing, me. I was too scared to go in there. Right, I see. Oh, Lippy and the witch as in the sandwich. I was like, huh? Ran in there, and then I heard a sort of old lady scream. Well, that wasn't me, I swear. If I were a gentleman, I'd stake my honor on it. I wondered what on earth was going on. Which is when you went to find a policeman. And I ran into a copper as soon as I turned the corner. So I brought him straight back to the place. Didn't I do well? Between us, that copper's eyes nearly popped out of his head when he saw the Reaper. I've never felt more uncomfortable all my life.
And the defendant was arrested on the spot, I believe.
Considering the catalogue of killings the Reaper had carried out, it was a particularly inauspicious end. If I can find any holes in this testimony... I'm afraid the judge will give a ruling of guilty, Mr. Naruhodo. The truth is, though, their combined testimony is fairly damning. Unfortunately, there don't seem to be any obvious problems with their statements, do there? Still, if Lord Van Zieks really is innocent, then I'm almost certain that we'll find something in there that doesn't quite add up. You don't think that one of these three could be the true culprit, do you? I don't know, but what I do know is that there's more to this case that has yet to be brought to light. Maybe the notice board was covering the candles, therefore it was dark. Light does not work like that. Like, you would still notice, I guess not on the floor, but you would still notice there was some light. But maybe you might be onto something. That still does not explain the bloody handprint, though. And I don't think anyone climbed over it.
Hold it!
You say they. Who do you mean exactly? Inspector Gregson and the defendant, Lord Van Zieks? I suppose so. The likes of us don't know the names of the high and mighty. But I'll tell you one thing. It was the old Reaper that went in last, that's for sure, and just behind Inspector Gregson? Did they arrive at the same time as each other? No, not at all. First fella must have gone inside a good 15 minutes before we heard that gunshot. The victim arrived 15 minutes before. Are you sure about that? Am I sure? Am I sure? Does it seem likely that I've forgotten a fellow with bright red hair like that, does it? Yeah. Oh. I really want to do her voice apparently, but no, I don't want to. His hair really were red, weren't it? Redder than my flaming fireworks even. That fiery red mop still burnt on the inside of my eyelids. Eyelids it is. Wait a minute. You were saying the man was a redhead? Weren't you listening, chum? He was a redhead. And he had a big trunk with him as well. Inspector Gregson's hair isn't red. Not by any stretch of the imagination. It seems likely that the person you saw wasn't in fact Inspector Gregson at all. Some other third party. No, I hate to break it to you, but the witnesses are correct. What? Let's have a look at this photograph of the victim taken at the scene. That's Inspector Gregson, alright. And a red hairpiece. And somehow, none of it is placed under his head. It's just resting on top of his head. Like, surely some of it will be caught underneath. If it was already on his head. Of course! We saw one on the floor when we investigated the scene, didn't we? I still refuse to believe Inspector Gregson wore a hairpiece, though. Why does the prosecution never submit evidence beforehand, but always has a gotcha? Beats me. For the suspense, I guess. So then why on earth would he have been wearing something like that?
The color does seem to suit the man, one might say. The photograph will be submitted as evidence, please, Counsel.
But yeah, I would also ask for like a picture pretty early on. Be like, hey, do you have the picture? And what became of the trunk that the red-headed victim was supposedly carrying? I was informed that no trunk was found at the scene. No, it just disappeared? What, do you expect us to have been watching the building every second, do you? We definitely saw him in the dock. Saw him in the dock going in, though. Okay. Less than a minute. Oh, we heard a big bang. Okay, let me take a look at this picture. See, that looks like it was just placed on top of him, right? Like, I'm not the only one that thinks that. That looks tossed on his head, yeah. Also, there's blood there, but there is like no blood on the hair. As far as we can tell, it's red, so it's kind of hard to tell, I guess. Let me just press this again to see if anything new happens. Just to see if anyone has a reaction to anything or other.
Hold it!
I haven't pressed this. So when Gossip ran to see what had happened, did you go in too? Well, me, I'm a bit hampered, see? All the signs are that I can't move very well. You were way behind, presumably, with that sandwich board around your neck and that big sign in your hand. What a great burden you bear. Pardon me for asking, Mr. Sandwich, but is it possible you and I have met before? I'm not anybody, me. The signs are what makes me who I am now. I sign, therefore I am. This poor man. So, you weren't employed as an omnibus driver just under a year ago then? Look at him just shaking. I might be mistaken, but I believe his trembling has intensified, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, I agree. He's clearly been through a lot. Turn down King Henry Street and the Black Widower's Arms is just there. Oh dear, you've made him hide behind a sign. Life is full of surprises.
Hold it!
Press this again.
Oh, there it is. I stood my ground and gave that Reaper a cold, harsh stare myself.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Mr. Sandwich? There's really nothing to me. Empty in the head I am. No thoughts, head empty. Just 2 slices with no middle. I don't know what you could want with me. I think that maybe you just remembered something? Having heard Mr. Gossip's last statement, I mean. What I think is, we're all nothings, really. We try to dress ourselves up as something else, but at the end of the day, we're all just street sellers. That's enough of you, Sandwich. Keep your trap shut now. Alright. Unless you want us to make you into a real sandwich. When he saw the Reaper, he fell clean over on his backside. That's it. Oh, you rotten beggar. I told you to keep that a secret. He screamed, he did. Screamed and scrambled off on all fours. That's all I wanted to say. Mr. Gossip, is this true? The floor was dead slippery, that's why. Planted my hand in a filthy pool of blood, didn't I? Yuck. What? A pool of blood? But listen here. Even when I was sprawled on the floor, I still kept giving that Reaper a cold hard stare. Don't you forget it. Let's just go back a little. Did you say you got blood on your hand? I did. Happens to the best of us at times, doesn't it? But I was scared, so I slipped over. We can keep it just between us, can't we? No, Mr. Gossip. I'm going to have to ask you to add that information to your formal testimony. Okay, so you may be right about the board. It probably fell over at some point. Not sure when. And why. But I assume it's his handprint. Oh, if I must.
The witness will amend his testimony to include the aforementioned details at once.
I slipped over and got blood on my hand, so I quickly wiped it off on the floor. Can I show this?
Objection.
I can. Okay. So, you wiped off the blood from your hand on the floor of the room. Are you quite sure about that? Well, what else do you expect me to have done, eh? Does it really matter?
Objection.
Police found no such handprint on the floor during their investigations. What exactly is the defense asserting?
Objection.
If you listen, you'll find out, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, there was no bloody handprint found on the floor. What are you trying to say? There was a handprint in blood left very clearly at the scene. On the back of this notice board.
Ah, yes, indeed. Indisputably a handprint in the distinctive color of blood.
You're dead right, that's my right hand. I'd know it anywhere. Sure, I guess.
Objection.
The witness very definitely does testify that he wiped his hand on the floor. Any handprints on the back of the board are irrelevant.
Objection.
Not if the board itself had fallen over onto the floor. In that case, it's quite possible for the witness's handprint to have ended up there. Just look at the floor plan of the room. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim, and in an upright position. Wait, I just noticed the door. Hold on, let me... That's not here. Anyways, the door goes out this way. So, what does that mean? It means they couldn't have looked over here anyways. Unless they open it fully, but who fucking does that, you know? I mean, I guess you could have done that. But if you just open a door, like you usually see like this area first. The notice board was in the opposite corner of the room to the victim and in an upright position. Even if it had somehow been toppled and was lying on the floor at the time, it would have been a considerable distance from the body. I fell over when I came across the body, so I was basically right next to the corpse, not on the other side of the room. Hold on. So... what? In other words, the defense's assertion is contradictory. Yes, it is. There is a very definite contradiction here, for which there must be a reason. So the notice board was closer to Gregson. Yes.
I take it that you formulated a proper hypothesis, Counsel. Regarding this apparent discrepancy between the witness's account and the handprint found at the scene.
I have, my lord. This discrepancy between the witness's account and the location of the handprint is explained by the board moving. The real contradiction here is the handprint itself, not where it was found. As the court can see, it's upside down.
Good gracious, so it is. If the witness had put his hand against the board, the fingers should be pointing upwards.
But what does that tell us? It tells us one simple fact. When this handprint was made, the board must have been lying on the floor, as I previously suggested. Which means, after the incident, it must have been moved.
Objection.
Oh, this gossip must have fucking scoliosis. What the fuck was that pose? That hurt my back just looking at. You're claiming that somebody moved the notice board after the shooting. Then tell the court who. I don't know that yet, but the point is, when you consider all the testimony we've heard so far, we can now be very clear on one point.
And that would be?
The position of the notice board at the time of the incident, my lord.
So, Counsel, I must ask you to clarify your assertion for the court. At the time of the incident, where do you maintain the notice board was situated?
I guess over here.
Take that!
This is the only possible location. Okay. Yes, it fell over and made a noise. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. But that doesn't explain why it was dark.
Immediately adjacent to the doorway.
If the court would think back to the testimony given by the defendant earlier, he said that when he entered the room, it was dark, and he couldn't see the body. It will block out some light, but not much. Yeah. By heck. If the notice board had been here, the body would have been completely hidden from view. Debatable. And the light from the candles would have been blocked, making the room appear darker.
Objection.
But the accused also claims that the victim's body simply appeared before him. It's true. Or, in his precise words. Just as I picked the firearm up to examine it, the door flew open and I heard a man scream. It was only then that the body of Inspector Gregson appeared before me. I don't know about calling it a scream, but he was talking about me and no mistake. Because it was me that kicked the door open. Okay. If you look again at the floor plan, Consider what would happen if the door to the room was thrown open with force. Can't. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over and making the victim's body visible. Oh, wait, let me look at it again. Okay, okay. No. No. Sorry, no. No. I'm not buying it. Look at its legs. There is no way you could smack a door into it and it would have enough momentum to one, fall over, and two, not get stuck in the door before it fell over. Like, these... Like, where... like, you gotta hit up here, at least. He must have smacked it real hard. Yeah. Also, the pins. Yeah, the there are just so many things that don't line up. So, unless this was fucking teetering already... Like, if it was fucking... If it was, like... Fuck, can I... If it was like this, then yeah, that would have been possible. I could have believed that. But if it was fucking just upright, like normal, like this, no. There is no way. Like, it's just way too stable here. Like, fucking center of mass, I guess. I don't know where the center of mass is, but I don't think it would have worked in that case. Like, it would have needed to be, like, fucking not propped up like this. That's a bit too much. The center of mass is already fucking past that. Like, you could probably find, like, a point to fucking balance it here. If you, like, leaned it against something else. And also, like, how high is the door? Like, would the door pass over here? Because if it did, then it would just lock it in place and it wouldn't fall anywhere. So I assume it's, like, lower than this, but it just seems so unlikely. Right? Am I thinking too hard about this again? Yes. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I definitely am. There are so many tiny flaws. Yeah. And also, it also depends on how heavy the door is. And there are just, like, so many variables here. But if you have tried to, like, tip something over by just hitting, like, here, good luck. That's all I'm gonna say. And even if it fucking flung open and hit it, it would only hit one side. Unless this was, like, standing, like, crooked against the wall. Like it was fucking measured or something. Someone held open the door and was like, okay, here, the door hits, like, both legs at the same time. Then maybe, but also, it would have been leaning against the wall. Like, I just don't think it's possible. Like, it would hit, like, one leg first, I think. The chance that it would fall just from the door hit is minimal. Yeah, it's not likely. I mean, I guess that's gonna be the fucking next point, isn't it? Where they're just gonna fucking go through exactly what I said and I'm gonna be like, see, I make sense. The door struck the notice board, knocking it over and making the victim's body visible.
Good gracious!
My client has told nothing but the truth. He has simply described what he saw. Get wrecked.
Counsel? How has this not come to light before now?
After the incident, somebody must have righted the board and moved it. Into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when investigating the room. Maybe... What I want to know... God, I wish I was playing on the Switch right now because then I can zoom in on stuff. For a moment I thought the customer said that get wrecked. Why would he say it? He is the one that got wrecked. Like, you really needed to make sure that it was on the fucking 90 degree angle if you wanted, like, the door to hit, like, both of the legs at once anyway. Also, is that, like... what's it called? Not... door frame? I don't think that's it. But yeah, is that bottom part, is that part of the door, or is that part of the door frame? Because if it is part of the door frame, then the board would be stopped by the door. And I can't use my mouse either, because it doesn't show up on the screen. Turn it off. How can I? It looks like there's a bit of a gap under the door. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. Like a... Oh, it's called something. What's it called? Fuck. Also, don't think the door can open more than 90 degrees. Oh yeah, because of the, I see. Well, you could maybe force it past 90, but it wouldn't go a lot past 90, I think. The door is in the middle of the beam, so the beam would stop it. Yeah, that's true. We're just like over-analyzing this fucking door. But do you see? You have the board and you have the door. So you can see that there is this like little piece of wood at the bottom that goes across the door, which may or may not be attached to the door. If it isn't, there is no way that door could have pushed that board over, because as you can see, it's too high. It wouldn't hit the legs, so it would just like kind of hit the support beam, I guess. And if there was any movement, it would get locked under the door. So there is no way it would fall down. It just isn't. What are those two things on the mantle? I don't know. I thought about them last time too, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Why are they there? What are they for? But I didn't think any more of it. I don't know. It's weird. What was he saying anyway? Somebody must have righted the board and moved it into the position where the police, myself, and my colleagues saw it when investigating the room.
Witness, what do you have to say for yourself?
Me, my lord? You and your fellows were at the scene before anybody else. It goes without saying that you must know something about the position of the notice board. There was also the window above the door to consider. Fuck, there was a window above the door? I didn't notice that. Interesting.
The witnesses in the stand will testify again.
I don't think that would matter, though. I think that would just, like, go inwards, you know? Like, those types of windows usually do. They don't open, like, to the side or whatever.
Will each explain exactly what you did upon arriving at the scene of the crime?
Stop looking over your glasses at me. I get the message. Okay. I don't know anything about the notice board. I just wiped my hand on it, that's all. Don't look at me, I haven't got a clue about it. I was doing business with some second years at the time. I thought you went to get the cops! I didn't know anything about anything. I am just a bystander, me, just a sign at the crossroads of life. I'm sure you are, Beppo. What's that Reaper, I bet? He's got a face that screams bored. I can't see how this changes anything anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot.
So none of you can elaborate further.
Shaken by the crime they witnessed, and with only the light of a few candles and an oil lamp by which to see. We can't expect these witnesses to be able to give a more precise account of what happened. That's right, yeah, I don't pay to expect too much. It don't pay. It's man's endless quest for knowledge that's destroying the world. That's what I think. Do you? Really? They did not witness shit of a crime. In any case, as this testimony shows, even if the notice board was moved by somebody following the incident, it makes no difference. When the gunshot rang out, the accused was the only person at the scene. In short, the only person who could possibly have committed this crime is Baroque von Zieks. None of this wrangling over the board changes that simple fact.
Quite so, quite so. Does the defense still wish to cross-examine the witnesses despite the circumstances?
Most certainly, my lord.
Very well, then you may proceed, counsel.
Why are you so scared? So you admit that it was the board you wiped your bloody hand on. How would he know? Admit it was to admit. It's there plain as day for all to see. The smashing print of my right hand. Perhaps you wanted to hide that handprint. So you righted the notice board and pushed it into the corner, did you? No, no! Imagine the weight of that great lump. I look like a powerful and well-nurtured man. I mean, if you allegedly fucking kicked the door open so hard that it made a fucking thing go flying, yeah. Did you see anybody else moving the board? I've got nerves of steel, I can tell you. But even I have my limits. There was a body on the floor in front of me, and the Grim Reaper himself standing over it. And therefore was precious little light inside either. And there was precious little light inside either. My bottom lip was all a quiver. In other words, this witness is unable to give definite testimony on that point.
So it would seem.
Hold it!
When you say you were doing business with them, you mean you were selling them fireworks? Yeah, what else? There is the priory school just around the corner, see? Those cheeky little so-and-sos have a plan to blow their school to kingdom come. She literally said she went for the cops! So I've been telling on them, telling on them, letting their teachers know what they're up to. Oh, you have? Yeah, wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, so I let the school know the kids are playing with dodgy toys. Then, praise the Lord, the teachers take all the fireworks off them. And then, praise the Lord again, the kids all come back to me to buy more. Everyone's happy, see? What a racket. Of course, sometimes the teachers give me a little bonus to thank me for letting them know. It's a busy old life, selling explosives. I'm sure it is.
Venus is a guileful goddess indeed.
Well, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing, really. I'm ever so good at it. She just chucked that at something or other. The judge? Did you just yeet it at the judge?
Excuse me.
I don't think you should do that. Something wrong, Mr. Sandwich. If I said it was, could we just leave it at that? Would that be the end of it? No? Did Miss Venus's statement just now bring something to mind, perhaps? Philosophical thoughts. Deep philosophical thoughts. Let's say there was a great liar. And that great liar said without batting an eye, telling barefaced lies is kind of my thing. I'm ever so good at it. Would those words of hers be a lie too? Or the truth? In which case, she's not a liar. It's a hellish paradox, that one. Don't you think? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but it seems to me you're suggesting Miss Venus has been lying, are you? What are you on about, old man? Trying to cause trouble, are you? Keep on like that, and I'll wrap your whole body in firecrackers and set him off. That'll give you something to tremble about.
You have a startlingly disturbing in mind behind that sweet and innocent face, young lady.
No death threats in my court? What? So Miss Venus has lied in her testimony. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, if it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days, so be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Old Blabbermouth here headed for the room where the gunshots seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right. That rotten liar over there. Sick. We love lying in court.
You mean to say that you did in fact betake yourself to the scene of the crime after all?
What did I tell you? I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? Yes, you mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? No firecrackers packed such a punch.
So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, did you, young lady? Good grief!
Well, now you come to mention it. I suppose perhaps. I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room, yeah. Either you clearly remember it or you don't. Perjury, anyone?
Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later.
Indeed. Perjury indeed.
For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth.
Of course, yeah. Ugh. Maybe you did sneak along, alright. And have a little peek. You make a habit of lying, do you, Miss Venus? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Alright, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed on the day in question, didn't you? Oh, please, as if I would. I can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know? Did you touch anything at the scene? Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a bit then. I had a look to see if there was anything I could sell. I did give the place a once-over, but it was nothing to write home about. Right. Now I hesitate to ask, but you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? Oh, please, as if I would touch anything like that. Just a few bits of loose change is all I had. The truth, please. I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flipping thing. Sorry. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing. I blasted the flipping thing. Flipped the blasted thing. Yeah, sure you did. Sure you did. Freudian slip, anyone? You're telling us that you did move that board. I think that did slip out, didn't it? You daft barn pots. Don't believe it, the girl doesn't think. So, did you find anything then? Something that you might have taken, perhaps? To sell? Oh, please, I should be so lucky. In my imagination, the truth. I might have found this old pocket watch under a notice board, I suppose. But a bit of junk like this can't be worth much, if you ask. So it was you, was it? You're the one who took it! Gina?
Young lady, may I remind you where you are?
That watch there. That was a present to Inspector Gregson from the yard for a big case he solved 10 years ago. The professor case, no doubt. The boss used to wind you up every evening without fail, when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub.
I see.
I swiped you off him once, and blimey was he upset. He gave me a right earful. That he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. Possibly not the best thing to go diving for then. It's not all that, though. I took it to Jabes's that night to ask how much it was worth, but the old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it, said it wasn't working. Knocked about and worthless, he called it. Ugh. I knew I should have lifted it. Wait, no, that said actual hero, didn't it? Watch must be submitted as evidence at once. Oh, please, just so long as you promise to give it back when you're done. Not a chance! I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again.
That's enough. Hand the watch to the bailiff forthwith.
Now, children, watch your manners.
Good lord! The glass appears to be broken.
More than likely, it shattered when the inspector was shot. It doesn't tick anymore either. Okay. Which is why Japes didn't want it. What a waste, huh?
Yes, indeed, it appears to have stopped at the hour of 5.
Exactly when the gunshot was heard then. Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course.
Well, it would appear that the mystery of the moving notice board has been solved at least.
And as predicted, it had very little bearing on the case. Or it was on the board, so it shattered when the board fell. I'm still not buying that it fell from the door, I'm sorry.
Now then, continue with your cross-examination, please, counsel.
I'll press. Fine. But you did go to see what had happened in the room, didn't you? Fresno Street is my whole world. That's all I know. And I know all of it. I have to make it my business to know if I want to hold my sign up high. You did go to see what had happened. It's not the destination that's important. It's how you get there, isn't it? Of course it is. Did you notice a notice board in the room? If you think about it, we're both the same species, aren't we? Both different members of the sign family. So if I'd spotted it, I might have tried to trip it up out of a sense of rivalry, I admit. Someone really needs to tell you that you're Homo sapiens, not Homo science. Okay. Does that mean that you didn't notice the board? I can only repeat what I said before. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander, me. Okay, whatever.
In which case, just who was responsible for moving the notice board?
He's got a face that screams bored. What does that even mean, idiot? What exactly do you mean by that? Oh, come on now. Don't tell us you've not noticed. He looks like he hates everything in the world, that fella. But not notice boards. They're the one thing he likes. You can see it in his eyes. I can't say I'd ever notice. I'll tell you one thing for free, though. I never took my eyes off that man on the floor, or off the Reaper, not for a second. Sorry? Well, I was that scared, I couldn't. You never know what a fiend like that might do if you look away, do you? You hadn't take your eyes off the defendant. If you didn't take your eyes off the defendant, you should be able to confirm categorically whether or not he was the one who moved the notice board. That I can. The Reaper did nothing of the sort, I can swear to that. Cool, thanks. I couldn't have missed it if he'd heaved the thing upright again and dragged it into the corner. Right. Glad we've cleared that up. What happened to the face that screams bored? I feel your pain, Kazuma. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon that you all heard a loud bang, wasn't it? Maybe the notice board fell over, or maybe it didn't. Maybe I fell over, or maybe I didn't. The Reaper's fate is sealed either way, because of the gunshot we've all heard. So your fate's sealed too. My fate? That's right. The defense is fated to lose, and the prosecution to win. Sorry, I need to. That's right! The defense is fated to lose, and the prosecution to win! In other words, it all hinges on that single gunshot. So if I could just find some problem with that part of their story, it may be possible to change all our fates. Of course, none of that changes the fact that I heard what I heard, does it? Not much to go on, as you've pointed out, Miss Naruhodo. There's no question that the notice board was moved, so somebody must have done it. But it did happen after the event, so maybe Kazuma is right, and it's not relevant to the case. But it seems to have been deliberately positioned so as to hide the body from view. So I feel sure that there's some deeper significance to all of this. I know what you mean. Also, that's another thing. If you're trying to hide the body, why put the sign here when you can walk here and be like, hey, there's some light coming from there. Oh no, what's this? When you open the door and it connects with this and you have like this long fucking hallway here. And you're just like, meh, there's nothing here. I'll leave. Unless you're like, huh, I wonder what's on the backside here. I guess. But it just seems so dumb to just have it here. Just like, eh, nothing here. Guess I can't go. I can only walk in 2 dimensions. It's just so weird. There are so many fucking weird things about this. It's annoying. I don't know what the game wants me to think. I no doubt there are more clues to be uncovered. You're on the right track, I can feel it. So follow your instincts. My instincts are saying that board wasn't there. So then where was it? And how did it fall? Alright then. It's contradictory a lot of times. I assume it will make sense later, but now it's just confusing. I'm thinking. I don't know. Hold on. I just want to see how much I have left of this. Okay, this should be like the last part. This cross-examination part anyway. Oh fuck, I'm dumb. We haven't inspected this. The glass over the face really is badly cracked. Look. What a shame when the inspector clearly looked after it so carefully. I imagine Mr. Sholmes could repair it, don't you? Yes, I should think so. He's very adept at things like this. A useful man to have around, in fact. But kindly remember that he's a great detective, Mr. Naruhodo. Not an odd job man. Well, if you pay for it, I'm sure it'll be fine. There's a tiny little keyhole here. Can you see? Yes, that's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism. It looks a little unusual, don't you think? Yes, you need just the right key to wind it, I imagine. Why do I feel as though I've seen something? Something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit in this hole. It would be wonderful if we had that key. Let's check carefully over what we already found. Dun, 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 dun. There's a tiny little stub sticking out from this small hole here. Look. I suppose there must have been a little knob or something on that for setting the time. In that case, seeing as we know the inspector took such care of his watch, it probably broke when the incident occurred, didn't it? Yes, of course! Which could mean that there's a small part of the watch still at the scene. Maybe. Yeah, thank you. Perfect fit. Mr. Soto, do you think perhaps this key could be the key for Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh, yes it could be. Let's try it at once. There's not a moment to lose. I knew it. Perfect fit. Look, the inspector's watch has started going again. So it has obviously just not been wound up, that's all. What is it, Mr. Soto? The police key is actually for the watch. I forget we had that key. Yeah, no, me too. I also forget to fucking examine things all the time. Sorry, I actually did read about that. I just read about this. I don't know anything that happens after this. I was just trying to go through it slowly and... There are some guides that are really good to follow, and then others are just like, hey, you do this thing, and then they say exactly this thing, so you can get spoiled. And it's just like, my god, just give me the fucking hints. Just like, hey, after clicking this, click this. Like, they're like, press on statement 4. Then the witness will tell you their entire life story and exactly what you need to know. And then you can look through your items and be like... No spoiler walkthroughs are underappreciated and very nice. Yes, very. But also, I really like using the website I am. Which website is it? Just Strategy Wiki. I like using it. It's a lot easier than an entire fucking notepad thing. That's just littered with text. And there are some guides using that website that are really nice and they're like not spoilery at all. But like for some reason they just need to like summarize exactly what is going on and it's so annoying. Like you don't need to do that. Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I have a feeling it could have profound implications. She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I better start thinking deeply too. Okay. Okay, was in...
Hold it!
You. Certainly know how to lie. It's nothing, really. It's just a little porky. Not so little implications. Did you know? Everything in the world apart from the truth is a big fat lie. If you believe that, of course. I'm lost.
As am I. This desecration of the truth is really rather disturbing. I think perhaps we should move on to the next witness, hmm?
No. Well, I guess. Do I just present the watch here?
Objection.
I don't. Yeah, whatever. Can I just skip this, please? I don't care. Where did that fucking statement of her being like, yeah, no, I blasted the flippin' thing.
Hold it!
Let's just go through everything again, one by one. What was this? Nothing. Or was that in the previous one, maybe? Okay. Apparently it's here. You should send that.
Objection.
I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Also, speaking about the walkthrough, like I was just gonna look at like, oh, how much is left, because sometimes my focus starts waning and I'm just like, hey, is there like a lot left of this? I need to know like how much can I like just sit through it, or do I have to split this up? And I was just like scrolling through it, and then I just read somewhere, like just in small fucking text, I just read Kazuma, and I was like, okay, well, fuck. Now I know that he returns in this. Like, it's so dumb. I mean, I guess if you want to like read the guide instead of playing the game, that's nice, I guess. But using that as a guide for the game, no. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh, at the scene, we found this key to the winder of the inspector's pocket watch. Who reads a guide instead of playing? I don't fucking know. I would never. Key. Like, why else would you have like a guide that explains exactly what's going on in the game? And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines one of the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built.
Order! But Council, the watches were stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock.
Which is just when we heard that gunshot. It is exactly the hour. The time that was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock.
Objection.
Even if that's true, 3 witnesses here all heard the gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when the crime was committed.
Objection.
No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. Regina said that he rewound it while waiting for dinner, so around 5 makes sense. You're right. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day, in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well.
Yes, that would be entirely reasonable.
But if that's the case, you wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down. You wouldn't expect the watch to have completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch.
You can't mean...
What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead.
Counsel, that is a most extraordinary claim.
Objection.
Extraordinary isn't the word, it's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before. Do you really think that Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? Well, on that subject, there is something rather surprising. There is actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. That's right. Wait a minute, you're forgetting that my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty great puddle of blood. Yes, so the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh. He catches on fast, doesn't he?
Objection.
But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could have been poured over the... Just my learned friend. Okay. I think that fresh blood is available on every street corner. Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify blood as human.
The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities.
Hey, that is Van Zieg's nickname. Yeah, I was like, sir. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility that it wasn't the inspector's blood at all.
Objection.
The gunshot we heard at 5 o'clock was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond question. Is it though?
What?
Given that the time of death was of the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all. Oh, please. What are you trying to say? Us lot know what we heard, and it was a loud bang that came from their room. Now you listen to me. A street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise.
Explain yourself then, counsel.
A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with these. Something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot.
Good gracious! The very fireworks that are sold by the witness!
Now hold on a minute. Are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway. See? Not 100 of them together. The Venus special that you sell for 600 pennies sound like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. Trying to suggest that somebody set one of those fireworks off at the scene. That would explain the smell too. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day, and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear.
Objection.
But even the accused himself has testified that he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Baruch van Zieks. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See, it's why people like them. What if you extended the wick? I fear for your finger.
I fear for your fingers, young lady.
Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb.
Good heavens, a bomb?
Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. No, wait, it's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device. Yes, exactly. A timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left.
Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that the time device was employed to create the gunshot sound?
No. I don't think it's this. No. I mean, I can try. I don't... Never mind.
You're suggesting this could have been used as some sort of time delay device?
I did think so, my lord, but it's becoming increasingly clear that we've all been very misguided here.
Objection.
Yes, by you. What? No, I wasn't. Okay, I got... Fuck you, game! Fuck you, game! This game really takes all the fucking tropes you know and love and just flips them on its head. You get it right, music continues. You get it wrong, music stops. Yeah, the music stopped. And I had hope. Yeah. Exactly. Hold on. Let me just slowly scroll down here. Examine the... Okay. I get it. Whatever, it's fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, yeah, no, that's not it. What The candles! Like, I read that it's this, but I was just like, why would it be this? I mean, okay, yeah, sure, this thing, I guess, but that's kind of weird. But these! If we put the wick near the candle, then it would ignite at a specific time. I'm not sure what they want to suggest with this. But I don't think that this necessarily has anything to do with it. I don't know. I don't know.
Take that!
As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off.
Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim.
I don't think that's possible, my lord. Okay, never mind. Not possible. Why? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle.
There are? Goodness, yes! But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound?
That's right, there was, but as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Which means that the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks. What can that be? The fact that there's such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Okay. Or to put it another way, the candle and firecrackers were joined together. Ah, okay, like that. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point part way down the candle. After the killer had left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. Like, tell me fucking Gossip doesn't have scoliosis. Look at that fucking arched back. That can't... My back hurts? And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they'd heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock.
You must have that is not a healthy lead. Well, what a plot! And this implies that the victim could have died earlier than we'd been led to believe, the previous day even. Now just hold your horses. All us lot here saw the victim going into the building, remember? I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair even if I wanted to.
The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Consider this. Obviously, anybody can wear a wig. So the person that these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been someone else entirely, wearing the red hairpiece.
Someone else? Do you mean to say?
It was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick. Other words, Inspector Gregson's killer. What are you laughing at?
Oh, very impressive, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Kazuma!
I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also noted the lack of a time of death in this report, a stark omission.
You're just like, I've just been playing along all along!
But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired.
Order! Prosecutor Usogi! What on earth do you mean by that statement?
I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today, so we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopped watch is just conjecture. But, while the possibility exists that my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it.
Well, certainly I would agree with you.
And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard.
Even within the yard?
However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend?
I do have a feeling about what case he might have been investigating.
Yes, I agree. And where did it come from? Was it called Cotton Eye Joe? Surely. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of his death.
Very well, counsel. Present your argument to the court. What evidence is suggestive of the case being investigated by the inspector on the day prior to the incident?
I mean, I we don't have anything else. The only thing we have is this. The woman's portrait? No. I doubt it.
Take that!
Nope. Never mind. Yeah, whatever. It's utterly wrong. Give me the penalty! I don't need this! Oh no! Maybe. Let's try this first.
Take that!
Nope.
Take that!
Fucking hell, I knew it. I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation.
Surely not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable.
Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except, that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League.
The Red-Headed League?
So, you'd already worked it out.
What on earth is this all about? Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen?
The Red-Headed League is currently under my investigation for a grand deception.
A deception of what nature, counsel?
They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord! The defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once.
2 redheads?
Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece, so it's very likely that he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events.
I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored.
Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us at least.
The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged men to appear. Bring these two red-headed League conspirators before me, Prosecutor Asogi.
At once, my lord.
Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned.
To be continued, yes! Yes! Ah! I still don't know what was up with that fucking C. Gregson throughout like almost every single episode. Sean's just solving his own murders. Yeah. That's the I want to say that's kind of the plot of Hannibal. But not so much it's solving as he's just there. Disposing? Yeah, that too. But not only that, he just feeds his victims to like the fucking FBI. It's great, truly. So gross, no, it's amazing. And there was one episode where he was asked like, what is this? And he's just like, pork. And I'm saying that like, yeah, it's pork, alright, long pig. Like, it's just so dumb. Anyways, yes, I'm gonna leave this here. Also, I found out last time that I tried to your raid, but it didn't work. But I'm not gonna raid this time. I just want there to be like a bit more people. Though in my defense, I have no idea how a fucking raid works. But I think I get the gist more now. So, yeah. Anyways, I think... No, I don't think. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna leave this here. I'll be back again on Thursday, and we're gonna do the next part. Don't think we're gonna start the last investigation part. And I'm suspecting that will be long as all hell, so... Well, at the very least, we'll finish this week, I say. Before the next part is like 6 hours long. I can't imagine them making a trial part that lasts 6 hours. I sure hope they fucking didn't. It's usually the investigation parts that take the longest, you know. But yeah, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.